All right, good morning. Welcome back. Today we're going to do Chapter 13, Section 3, and we're going to talk about the war with Mexico. Americans support Manifest Destiny. Now, Manifest Destiny is this idea that the United States should actually reach from sea to sea. So that's where you hear the saying sea to shining sea. That comes from Manifest Destiny, the idea that we should go all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. The abundance of land in the West held great promise for Americans and was viewed as unoccupied by white settlers, even though there were already other people there. There were Native Americans, there were Mexicans, I guess, that lived in the area. So you're seeing these people that are in this region, but white settlers are like, it's all free, unoccupied land, nobody owns it. Many people believe the U.S. was destined to stretch from one ocean to the ocean, and John O'Sullivan called this Manifest Destiny. Now, James K. Polk is going to become the 11th president. And this is Polk up in the corner. Once he's elected president, Manifest Destiny not only becomes a thought, it becomes actual government policy that we are going to control land all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. Since 1818, the Oregon Territory was occupied jointly by the British and Americans, and the slogan became 5440 or fight. And 5440 basically means that latitude 5440, which would be quite a ways up into Canada. In fact, Alaska and the United States, if we had gone to 5440, would probably be connected or be very close to being connected right now. So what ends up happening is the British and Americans agreed to extend the boundary at the 49th parallel, and this is the line already drawn to separate Canada and the U.S. So this line that goes straight across from Minnesota all the way over to the East Coast is the 49th parallel, and that's where we actually negotiate with the British. They get what's north, that becomes part of Canada. We get what's south of that line. So that's where you see this border, this northern border, end up solidifying itself. All right, troubles are going to arise with Mexico, and it's going to come out of exactly what we were talking about yesterday, where we decide to annex Texas. In 1845, Congress admitted Texas as a slave state, and in spite of northern objections to the spread of slavery. Mexico viewed this as an act of war because, like I said, even though Santa Anna had actually signed the treaty saying that Texas was free, he did so under stress, so he basically says that it was null and void and it never really happened. The border of Texas and Mexico was also in dispute. Texas said the southern border was the Rio Grande, which is what it is today, and that's right here. But the Mexicans said that it was the Nueces River, which is about 100 miles north of the Rio Grande. Mexico said it would fight to defend its claim, and Polk sent John Slidell, who was a Spanish-speaking ambassador, to offer Mexico $25 million for Texas, California, and New Mexico, but his diplomacy failed. And to be honest with you, Slidell's diplomacy probably would have succeeded had it not been for other government factions that were undermining him basically the whole entire time he was there. Polk told Zachary Taylor to station American troops on the northern border of the Rio Grande. Now, this is an interesting move because Polk and the government claim the Rio Grande as the southern border, but they also know good and well that Mexico claims that the Nueces River. So they're going to station people here with the intent that Mexico will come and attack them. And then if that's what happens, then we can say, oh, hey, look, Mexico attacked us on our own land, and it would give us reason to go to war to take this land. On April 25th, 1846, a Mexican cavalry unit crossed the Rio Grande and ambushed an American patrol, killing or wounding 16 soldiers. Even with the loss of life, is exactly what the government was looking for, and this gave Polk the chance he was looking for, and now he's going to try to talk Congress into declaring war because Congress is the only group that can declare war. Polk sent a rousing war message to Congress saying Mexico has invaded our territory and shed American blood upon American soil, and 2 days later war was declared. There were a lot of people in the United States that were totally against this. Abraham Lincoln was against it. Some other people who were writers and things like that were against it. A great debate pursued in Congress as many Northerners viewed the war as a way to expand slavery, and a bill was considered to not allow slavery in any lands taken from Mexico. Now, obviously, that's going to fail. In May of 1846, the U.S. plunged into war as General Taylor led his troops into Mexico. Zachary Taylor, very good general. He's going to lead soldiers down into Mexico. We're basically going to invade Mexico. Another general, this is Stephen Kearny up here in the right. Stephen Kearny left Fort Leavenworth and was to occupy New Mexico and then continue on to California. He's going to actually go into New Mexico, and he's going to come across a group of Mexican troops. He's going to basically take New Mexico without firing a shot because he's going to convince the Mexican troops that they're just passing through. They're not planning on staying there. And then the Mexican troops leave, so he leaves some of his troops there to basically occupy the land. So they take what is now New Mexico without a shot. He works his way, he continues to work his way on into California. Now, things are going to get a little heated once he gets towards California, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. While Kearny is doing this, there is already a man in California, and his name is John C. Fremont, and this is Fremont here. They actually call Fremont the Pathfinder. He's married to the daughter of a powerful senator, so he's given all these jobs to go out and explore the West, and he becomes very famous for this. He goes, and he actually has a kind of a sidekick, a guy that always goes with him, who's a tracker, a survivalist, and his name's Kit Carson. Kit Carson, by far, is the more accomplished, but Fremont is the person who gets all the glory for it. So he actually goes, and he starts a revolt in Northern California, and at first things don't go really well, but then he eventually is able to secure Northern California. Once he secures Northern California, they're going to move south. And on his way, once they secure the South, because there's not really much military presence by the Mexican forces in California, he's then going to send Kit Carson back to Washington to try to talk to the president to let him know that he controls the sea, because Fremont wants to get the glory for this. Carson heads out, and crazy as it is, as large as the United States is, he actually runs into Stephen Kearny and his men. Well, Kearny then says, no, I'm a general. You're going to come with me and lead me to where Fremont is. So Carson then goes with the Kearny. They end up getting surrounded by a larger Mexican force. They're in some serious trouble. Kit Carson, at night, he actually crawls through the Mexican lines and makes it and gets to San Diego region today and brings in some reinforcements, frees them up. Kearny then comes in, and now they have complete control of California, New Mexico, Arizona, all these areas. Short little version of that. Now, American forces invaded Mexico from two directions. Taylor battled south from Texas towards Monterrey, and you can see right here, you can see Taylor, he's coming south, and he's working his way toward Monterrey. And on February 22nd, 1847, Taylor and his 4,800 troops met Santa Anna with 15,000 troops at a ranch called Buena Vista. There's a 2-day-long battle, and the Americans, even though outnumbered 3-1, they actually inflict far more casualties on the Mexican army, and the Mexican army is forced to flee. Meanwhile, while he's doing this, General Winfield Scott, we talked about him before. He's the first thing we talked. He's been involved in a lot of other things like the War of 1812. But the first thing we really talked about with him was what he did with the Trail of Tears. His job is he comes down to Veracruz on ships with the Navy, and then him and his army are going to march to Mexico City. Now, this is a huge feat. This is a hugely impressive feat. He, for the most part, he meets resistance, but not really a whole lot that's slowing him down. He does meet some pretty fierce resistance at Chapultepec, where there were 1,000 soldiers and 100 cadets. They fought fiercely, but in the end, Mexico City fell in September 1847. You know, this is kind of like a school for future leaders. People like Robert E. Lee, Grant. Robert E. Lee was actually with General Winfield Scott. Grant was with Zachary Taylor. So you're seeing guys who become famous due to the Civil War who are learning from these great generals. The hard part is once Winfield Scott has control of Mexico City, is actually holding Mexico City, because he has a small force of a few thousand men, but he's trying to keep a city of 1 million people in check and hoping that there's no uprising against them. And while he is now trying to he's trying to do negotiating with the leaders in Mexico City, Polk sees him as a threat because he's in a different political party, and he keeps undermining all the things that Winfield Scott's attempting to do, kind of like he did with Slidell. On February 2nd, 1848, the war officially ended with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Mexico recognized Texas as part of the U.S. and ceded the Mexican cession, which included present-day California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, and parts of Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Basically, it's this red part that you see here. That's Guadalupe Hidalgo. So think about that. So the U.S. then paid Mexico $15 million, would pay the $3.25 million in claims that the U.S. citizens had against Mexico, and would protect the 80,000 Mexicans living in Texas and the Mexican cession. So that's what they do to get the war. The Mexicans living in the region helped new settlers to develop the land, and a rich new culture was born. And then this little part, the Gadsden Purchase, they bought because they wanted a Southern Railroad too. In 1853, Mexico sold the Gadsden Purchase to the U.S. for $10 million. This in turn was made so that the U.S. could put another transcontinental railroad. If you add the two together, the $15 million and the $10 million, basically we paid them exactly what we wanted to pay them for, or offered to pay for it earlier, but we just kind of went to war to force them to let us buy it. I always find that is to be kind of an odd part of American history. Now, if you got any questions, get a hold of me. Make sure you're getting the worksheets and the readings done. Have a great day.